Welcome to The Power and the Pain, where your past isn't your prison.
It's the fuel for your purpose.
I'm Greg Pease, combat veteran, NLP trainer, and your guide to turn trauma into triumph.
And I'm Catherine, truth teller, mirror holder, and voice for the breakthrough hiding in your breakdown.
This is The Power and the Pain. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. Today on our first episode, we're opening up with the story of trauma. We're going to take you guys through, over the next 6 months, a journey of what trauma looks like and what it looks like to create transformation and how we extract our power from our trauma. And so we're going to open up, we're going to share vulnerably with you guys, let you know what some of our past experiences look like, and we're going to use that as our content to unpack and share with you ways that you can transform your life. Catherine, I'm excited to have you as a co-host on this podcast, and I want to start with your story. Can you take us to tell us a little bit about what does the beginning of Catherine's story look like? Where does what does that struggle look like in the beginning for you?
Well, the beginning of my transformation, or I guess the point where I knew that I had to make a change, was really when I recognized that I couldn't numb out anymore. I was trying to hold everything together on the outside as a mom, as a wife, as a corporate accountant, and I just could no longer hold it. I was suppressing so much emotion and feeling, and it was actually when I lost my dad, it was in that grief that it really just broke something open for me.
I can only imagine. I mean, and man, the loss of your dad, I mean, that's something we got to talk about. There's a lot there to unpack. I can relate in my story, in my journey of being really, I use the label trauma a lot. Okay. It's just a label. We all have experiences to process. My experiences were traumatic, so I use the label trauma. And when we have certain type of adverse experiences, I know for myself, we get really, really good at poker face, like really good. And it sounds like you got good with your poker face.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then speaking from my journey, and then I want to hear what this looked like for yours, but relating it into my journey, I know that this poker face looked like if I can people pleasing, if I can keep everyone else happy and satisfied with what I'm doing, then they'll like me. And I might not actually like the situation, but if they find out I don't like the situation, they might not like me. So I'll suppress my emotions. This is me. This is my journey. This is what I did.
Yeah.
And so I'll suppress those emotions so they won't know, so that they can keep liking me. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, like speaking from my journey, it's like almost addicting because it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take us back into yours. Like, yeah. What did that look like for you?
Yeah. I think that a lot of it is there was a desire for love and thinking that came from likes, that if people liked me, then they would love me. And so it is that people pleasing, but it's almost, that is an illusion of control that says that they like me because I am this, but then it's almost like I felt like I was pot committed. Like I had to hold this facade, or else then it was like, but they like this version of me. So then if I change, then it's that fear of don't leave me because what happens then? And so then it was just just stuff it down. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Until it's it's not fine.
Man, I felt that when you said that, it's like, I gave them this, I created this facade for them. And then I woke up one day and shit, I was pot committed to this facade, but it's not who I ever want it to be.
Yeah.
I suppressed myself just to create this facade.
Yeah.
Man, like like I felt that from my journey. I definitely created facades in my journey.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we have so in the beginning of your journey, it looks like everything is fine. Catherine is awesome. And then behind the scenes, there's this like, wah! What does it look like behind the scenes? How do you feel? What are the thoughts like when you're before you start the transformation?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think I did feel. I got to a point where I felt nothing. And that was accumulated over time, but it got to a point where it was like, I don't even recognize what I'm doing anymore. Like you were saying, of this created this facade, I was like, okay, I have the marriage, I have the kids, I have the house, I have the job. And this was, but I don't know who wrote that narrative,
Checking all the
who
boxes.
told me that this was where, but somewhere along the lines, I was chasing happiness. I was chasing that joy, that fulfillment. And then but it didn't feel right internally. And so there was something, on the inside, it was a hot mess.
Like it was a little messy, all right?
A little messy.
A little bit.
Yeah. But being able to, to finally recognize that, like, I was like, there's got to be more than this.
Tell us as best as you can remember. So there's a time where behind the scenes, like it's numb, like and I can I can just imagine and relate from my journey. Like you go home and like, there's not good or bad. It's just like, I did my things today. Let me go to sleep and do it again tomorrow. When do you, or how, like, what does it look like when you realize how numb you are? Because while we're numb, it's like we're numb. We don't even know we're numb possibly because it's numb.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned and at whatever level you're comfortable with sharing, I know you mentioned that your father passing was part of a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
At whatever level you're comfortable, what did that look like for you when you start having these like shifts of like, there's got to be more, I want to change?
Yeah. A lot of it was that I also realized that my dad didn't actually know the real me, or that I felt like that who I wasn't good enough for him. And then the aftermath of that, realizing that I don't have the opportunity, at least in my body in this lifetime, to let him know the real me. And so that whole chasing love but receiving likes, I don't get the chance to let him know, hey, this is who I really am, and then see if that's acceptable or not.
Yeah. Wow. When you had these realizations, what were the next steps from there? I say steps. What did the journey look like once I could imagine that, and I don't know, actually, let me ask also out of curiosity, I could imagine that realization feeling heavy for me. Did that feel heavy, or what did that feel like?
Yes, and I was drinking a lot, and that was a big part of my story too, because and that was a thing that I was closet drinking. It was not an acceptable thing to drink in my family, and so really getting to that place of recognizing
There's more. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can, it's a lot. It's a lot. But so nonetheless, I can imagine getting to that place of, and what you're saying, like, hey, realizing, and then naturally, and listen, so we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff through the lens of NLP. And so NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and we're talking about the study of neurology. Our nervous system, our neurology is only going to allow us to process what we're ready to process, to see what we're ready to see, to feel what we're ready to feel. and nonetheless, I mean, you had that realization, and I'm gonna project. I'm gonna suggest your neurology said, "Well, that's as far as we're going today with this." Nonetheless, so you had that realization, and then tell me a little bit about when you make a decision for change. What does that look like when you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this differently? Did you, when you made that decision, like, did you take off running? Did you make that decision? If you were anything like me, make that decision, stumble, remake that decision, stumble. But once you made that decision, what does that start to look like? Hey, I'm changing. I'm not doing this no more.
Yeah, that was, it was kind of a combination of both of those things. Like when I decide something I'm in and I am like, it has to be, and it also is very messy because that's part of those default patterns that come up and then fall over. But for me, it was like, I knew that I had to make big changes. And so I was like, I quit drinking. I left my accounting job.
Let's go.
And, I mean, I was projecting everywhere onto everything. And
no.
I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, it was, and then there were several doubts along the way that came up and that, I would have to kind of come back to recenter, but that was part of where I found breath work and, doing some of that with the regulating the nervous system because it was not regulated.
Yeah, right. I was curious how you found breath work, even a little more hyper specific. If you remember, like, did an ad cross on your phone? Was there a friend that was doing it, having success? How did it even get into your radar?
So a friend of mine who I went to college with actually invited me to go to a conscious breathing session that was in Nashville. It was called Rebirthing Breathwork. And so because I knew her, I'd known her for 20 years, and she was like, I really trust this person. And so I didn't even question. I was like, it's a yes. I mean, if the energy's on, I'm in. And had no idea what it was going to be like. And it was really intense. If you've done any of those, like the conscious connected breathing, I know we've talked about some of that.
We've talked about it a little bit.
It can, some intense things can happen. Not only can you feel like these emotions, but also like physical sensations. And I got tetany really, really intensely. And I remember being like, I want to get off the ride.
Yeah.
This is not okay. And I'm really grateful because the facilitator came over and he was just there, and I could feel like my friend was beside me. And so even though she was, it's an interdependent practice, but I felt the safety, and I was able to just breathe through and go through that experience. And shortly after that, I was on a retreat, and actually I was helping on the retreat, and the facilitator there had brought in a breathwork facilitator, and she needed additional space holders. And so she came and asked me, she said, hey, I knew that we were going to need some additional space holders, and you came to my mind when I was, when Janine asked me about this. Yeah. And so would you do that? And that was my first experience kind of stepping in. We did a little, I wasn't leading that, but I was just there to be a help, to be a support for people as they came through those emotions. And it is so incredibly powerful to witness people and to not be a part of their experience, but to be able to just witness them as they are coming through these things, because that's the beauty. There's such intensity in that. And so in connection is really where I believe true transformation can occur.
Yes. And, me projecting here, it's so fulfilling. Mm-hmm. Viktor Frankl, I don't know if that name rings a bell. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was an Auschwitz survivor, pretty incredible guy, the creator of logos therapy, which essentially, think of a logo, like what is a logo? It's a representation of a brand. It's a visual representation or an anchor of a brand. What is a brand? A brand is nothing more than the end user's experience. Mm-hmm. A brand is an end user. So like I can say whatever my brand I want it to be, but the only truth about my brand is whatever the end user says about me. Or says about my company. That's what the brand is. Okay. When we look at the logos therapy, essentially he boiled it down, like all of us are looking for, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, we're all looking for meaning or fulfillment in our life. In theory, I believe that. I think, getting a little left field here, but I'm a believer of like, a lot of us are looking for like, what is the meaning of life or what is my purpose? But my belief, right? I don't think anyone was put on this earth as the purpose giver outer. So like, I don't think anyone has our purpose other than us. And like, we have to, like, we are responsible for giving meaning to our life. And when we give it meaning, we'll have a purpose. And when we have a purpose, we'll feel fulfilled. That's a long-winded way to go around. There's so much fulfillment in serving others.
Yeah.
It's so selfishly rewarding.
It is.
It gives purpose. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Well, and I'm curious on that purpose question. So do you feel like that your purpose is a decision?
I do. Yeah, let's talk about it. Yes. I think our purpose is a decision, and I think we have to make that decision and we have to choose it.
Yeah.
I think we all inherently have gifts.
Yeah.
But I believe the meaning of our life is left to us to define. I believe that's our gift of free will, that we actually get the choice.
I believe that too.
And then in the absence of that decision, it's a belief. Listen, if this isn't your belief, the listener, reject it and maintain your belief. But in the absence of that decision, we'll live our life searching for meaning. Because we'll be looking outside. I think everything we need is inside. Like, it's a real cutesy cliche saying, but I really believe every single thing we need is inside. All of our answers are inside of us.
Yeah.
And then we just got to go on this weird journey of unpacking it all.
Because I believe that it's also related to the feeling. Like, I believe that everything is inside of us, but it's also like what we're willing to feel along the way.
Absolutely.
Because if we're seeking outside, we're still not.
We're not in tune with the feeling. The feeling's not outside. 100%.
Yeah. I
love that. Okay, let's see. Let's tell the listeners a little bit about Greg.
Yes.
So what does the story of trauma look like for me? And it starts with, I guess I would say it starts with at 3 years old, my biological mother died of cancer. And while that is something to be processed, at 3 years old, I was unaware of the gravity of it. Yeah. Like, I had zero awareness. I can remember at 3 years old, and I suppose because it's such a pivotal experience, most of us don't have too many memories before 7, but not to say zero. I remember seeing my mother in the casket, and I knew that she looked lifeless, but I didn't have meaning for that.
Yeah.
I just knew that I was told to go look at my mother in the casket. I'm like, all right, saw her. I had no quantification for what that actually was. And then my stepmother pretty seamlessly enters the picture. My father was a over-the-road truck driver, and my stepmother was just graphically abusive to us for years. And she was there was a lot of physical abuse. And when I was 7 years old, she killed my 5-year-old brother. And she did this by dropping him on his head intentionally on the concrete. She picked him up by his ankles. And then she was that day she had us drinking water, which is like, there's all these quite a why what was going on. Man, she was crazy. Like, and I mean that as like a technical term. Like, there was stuff that wasn't clicking right. But she was making us drink water, like too much water. Like, we were definitely at risk of hyponatremia, and Timothy couldn't drink any more water. And so she lashed out physically. Well, he has too much water in his system, and he has a head injury. He fell coming down the pool deck because he was swimming. So this is the story she told, and threatened our lives to say any different. And I know that she was willing to kill. I have awareness of this. So that's the story. He fell off the pool deck. And then psychological, I tell people, like, today, I can't even remember what the physical pain felt like, but the psychological torture, oh my gosh, it was brutal. She would do wild things I I mean, I put it this way. She escaped this earth and literally got away with murder. As an adult, I did try to get her through the judicial system. We can kind of unpack that a little more at another time. But she flawlessly, and I mean flawlessly, manipulated every human that she met during her time on this earth. I mean, flawlessly. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. I'll never forget this lady's name. And for everyone listen, Janet Foley. Like, if you know that lady, Janet Foley was the DYFS worker, the Division of Youth and Family Services lady. And people, like, onlookers knew that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
So people were constantly, like, little hotline calls were being made and such. So, like, people that she didn't get to have in her webs knew it wasn't right. But as soon as you entered her webs, I mean, she was flawless at this for decades. So like Janet Foley, this lady would visit our house once a week as a caseworker to validate everything was up and up. And she validated everything was up and up. Well, my brother got murdered. Everything wasn't up and up. I mean, I believe Janet Foley was doing the best she could, but it's like, man, like there's a little bit of a big failure there.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, the psychological trauma or torture that watching her, like everyone thought she was awesome. And furthermore, she had everyone believe that there was something wrong with us. There was something wrong with us. She would do things like she sent me to school with a pocket knife one time and had my older brother tell on me that I took it, that I was going to attack someone. And we had to play this out. I mean, our life's on the line. So go to school and play this out, and then people think that I want to attack someone with a knife. This isn't true. So everyone, teachers, principals, what is wrong with that kid? Oh, like I walk by and like you just, as a child without understanding things, you can feel the energy of like, he's coming by. Because like, man, this guy tried to attack people with a knife.
And how old were you then?
I mean, sub 10 years old.
Wow.
And then she would parlay this into like, if someone were to, like, if she had to defend herself against abuse. Oh no, these kids are out of control. He took a knife to school last week. I'm just the step parent. I'm doing the best I can. And other people believed, like, I could read their body language. I didn't understand at a deductive level, but I could read, like, people thought that, like, people acted strange around me. They thought I was an issue, a problem, weird. And inside that psychological torture of like, I'm not weird. I didn't do it. I want to be cool too. I want to hug. Yeah. So this is in a flyby. This is what this the story of trauma looked like for me. As an adult, I do go on to serve in the Marine Corps and go to combat, and again, we kind of unpack that a little bit later. But I share with people, I had, after 3 combat deployments as Marine Corps infantry, I was having nightmares about my childhood and not having nightmares about war still as an adult, as a grown adult. I mean, like night terrors. Yeah. And I suppose it has to do with the age of when it happens. I'm supposing, because of the gravity, that it wrote so deep at that time that it was like, I mean, war is horrible. Yeah. And I think my childhood kind of shadowed it in its own sick way. So
would you say that that's where you first recognized that trauma was holding you back?
When you say, when I first realized, what? Give me some context. I'm sorry.
When you were saying that you were at war and you were noticing that you were having these.
Beautiful. Okay. I'm thinking about that. What I would say, that is not when I was aware of the potential for change, but I was very aware that these things were holding me back, but aware from the perspective of victim mentality. So during war, as a young adult, I was aware that I had things that held me back, but I just thought that, like, well, I thought they were with me I thought this is written.
Yeah.
So for the rest of my life, I'll be held back. So there's nothing I can do anyway. So let's just have some fun. Like there was I really thought like these things would just be there forever.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've found out on this journey that we can create change.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about in what ways your understanding of trauma evolved after finding NLP?
I'll tell you what, why don't we dive into that in another episode, and we'll take a deep dive into now that we have the story of trauma and what this trauma looked like. As we continue, we're going to start unfolding what do the first days look like? What do the challenges look like? What do the struggles look like? When does momentum set in? So we're gonna wrap this up today. We're gonna keep all of our episodes for all the listeners. Make sure you guys like and subscribe so you guys can be notified of next week's episode. We're gonna keep these things under 30 minutes so you guys can digest them in a simple commute and have some actionable steps to take away. So we're gonna wrap up for today. Catherine, I'm excited. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see everyone next week where we get a little deeper into this.
If this hit you deep, trust that.
Your pain has power, and your story isn't over.
Follow, share, and send this to someone who you think might benefit.
I'm Greg.
And I'm Catherine.
And this was The Power in the Pain. Keep stepping into your power.